Hi, my name is Nick Hodges Pierce and I'm presenting on baby doll therapy. So sometimes ABA is hard to explain. For that kid who just won't talk no matter how many tickles or how many edibles we give him, the adult who's never going to learn math because math requires a lot of skills and a lot of covert behaviors that some people just don't have. Being able to get a picture of numbers and subtracting them is going to be difficult. That's going to make division difficult. That'll make story problems and algebra difficult. Some people just aren't going to be able to do it no matter how many skills we reinforce. I'm never going to be a good drawer no matter the task analysis that you do or the reinforcement of those small skills. I'm just not going to be a good drawer. I'm not artistic. That wasn't reinforced when I was a young kid. It's not going to happen. So what do we do when ABA isn't enough? We can look at Skinner and Baum and try to break down some of these really complex issues, but it's really hard to explain everything just using words like reinforcement and punishment. Ellen Langer is a psychologist. She did a study that she called counterclockwise. So she took two groups of elderly men and she did a 1959 time warp. So the control group lived in this time warp. There were pictures of them in 1959. There was 1959 music. There was articles and newspapers from that time. So this environment was set up to look like 1959. And this control group lived there and reminisced. The experimental group lived as if it were 1959. So they talked about events as if they were happening that day or as if 1960 were the next year, and they lived as that. So they weren't offered any help that they were used to. So when you see an elderly gentleman with a cane, you would hold the door for them or take their bags upstairs. None of that was offered in this time warp period because they didn't need that essentially. So both groups improved, but I'm sure as you can tell, it was said that the group that lived as if it were 1959 improved a lot more. So there are some criticisms with this study and even the author. So she never published this study, so she'll talk about it and reference it, and it's even been in several magazines, but it's never actually been published. So Langer also references unpublished studies a lot when she's speaking or when she's giving interviews, which can be hard for people to follow along if none of the things she talks about are published. So casually hatched ideas was a quote that someone used, and she puts these the same as published studies. So it's kind of hard to follow her quite a bit. So she's well published, she's from Harvard, that's her brand, but she doesn't really take any of those responsibilities being a scientist. So there was no replication of counterclockwise as of yet.